Welcome back, yogis. I want to apologize in advance if I get a little emotional recording this class. My sweet kitty that is going to join us a few times throughout this class unfortunately passed away really suddenly this last week. So while I'm very happy that I have good memories of him on my yoga mat, it's still a little bit raw for me. So I hope you enjoy the practice and don't mind the tears. So we're going to go ahead and get started today in child's pose. You can open up the knees wide and let the chest sink down towards the ground. Let the hips start to weigh heavy, resting towards the heels. And you can choose to relax and release into this pose, or you can choose to make it a little bit more active, pressing the fingertips into the ground and just gently shifting the hips farther back towards the heels. We'll take a few more breaths here, taking advantage of the open knees to really expand the rib cage in all directions. And then maybe try closing the knees, pushing back into child's pose again and noticing the difference. Instead of having the space to breathe, maybe you feel a deeper stretch and lengthening down the lower back. Either way, really great stretch for your hips and your lower back, especially if you're a little older and you're starting to deal with back pain. I can't tell you how much this stretch will help. Take a few more breaths. And then when you're ready, slide the hands forward and come into puppy dog pose, resting your forehead or your chest, depending on how open your shoulders are, on the ground. Hips should be right on top of the knees. And then go ahead and walk the hands underneath the shoulders. Tuck the toes behind you and just barely lift the knees up off the ground so you're really engaging the core. And then try taking a few cat-cow breaths without the knees on the ground. So the knees are just hovering an inch or two above the ground. This is a really great way to fire up the body and get the body warm very, very quickly. Not only are you warming up the core, warming up the abs, and lengthening the spine, but you're also warming up those quads. Release and push back to child's pose. And then come back forward, cross the feet behind you and gently roll over the ankles, and then come into boat pose. So you can keep the knees bent, or you can extend them out for a bit more of a challenge. Either way, I want you to really focus on lengthening the back. And then on your next exhale, curl down as slow as you can, one vertebrae at a time. Feet don't move. And then release. Soles of the feet come to the ground. And exhale, curl the spine up, one vertebrae at a time, coming into bridge pose. Go ahead and try walking the feet in bridge pose, lifting the hips a little bit higher as you pick a knee up towards the sky. Again, just warming up the body, creating a lot of heat very quickly so that we can move into some of our more intense poses. Continue to walk and try to keep the hips high. And then on your next exhale, curve the spine to the ground using your abs to create that curve. And then just like we rolled down, we're going to roll back up to boat, one vertebrae at a time. Nice and slow. Find a nice long spine. Take another breath here. And then with control, curve down, massaging the spine as you roll down, realigning the spine as you roll down, and then release the feet back to the ground. And on your next exhale, curve the spine back up, finding bridge pose. So you're really focusing on using the strength of your core to curve the spine up and down as we transition between these poses. Go ahead and start walking the feet in bridge pose again, picking up one foot and lifting the hips higher to the sky, and then releasing other side. Nice and slow, 1 foot at a time. Really focusing on the squeeze to keep the hips high each time you lift a knee. And then both feet come to the ground and exhale, roll the spine down, 1 vertebrae at a time. Feet extend to boat pose and then curl up using the strength of your core, finding boat pose, finding a nice long spine, not collapsing the shoulders towards your legs, and then roll back down. Last time, soles of the feet come to the ground. Exhale, curl the spine up, lifting high into bridge pose. And we will walk out the feet 1 more round. Lifting a knee, squeezing with the back body to lift the hips higher, pushing the knee towards the sky, and then to the other side, walking 1 foot at a time. A few more, either side. And then both soles of the feet come to the ground, lift the hips higher just for a moment, and then exhale, roll all the way down. Extend the legs, whether they are bent or straight legs, roll back up to boat pose. Take a few breaths here. And then we're going to transition to more of a flow. So cross the legs, roll over the ankles, and step back to plank. Find lots of length in the body in plank. And then we're going to play with our spine here. I'm doing cat-cows, but in plank. If that doesn't feel good or if it feels awkward, you can always come from up dog to plank and back again. On the next exhale, push the hips down and back, coming into our first down dog. If you'd like to walk the feet, you can. If there are any other alternatives that you like to settle into your first dog, feel free to take them. Make sure that the lower back is nice and long. So if you need to have bent knees, that's perfectly fine. We really want a nice straight tailbone. Then on your next exhale, step forward, inhale, flat back, and release back to the toes. Inhale, reverse swan dive, rise up. Hands to your heart center on the exhale. Inhale, tall mountain. Exhale, hinge at the hips and dive forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, gently step 1 foot back and soften the knee to the ground. When you're ready, rise up to low lunge, fingertips towards the sky, continuing to push the hips forward, opening up the hip flexor of that back leg, and then release and step to plank. On your exhale, slowly lower through chaturanga, and then inhale up to your first back bend. You can do cobra like I am, or jump right to up dog. And then on your exhale, push back, down dog. So we're going to lunge on the same side. So pick that same leg up that was in front to start with and step it through again. Drop the back knee to the ground and rise up low lunge. And maybe you can sink a little bit deeper on this same side. On your exhale, palms come together and hook the elbow across the opposite knee, across that front knee, and gently twist, maybe looking towards the sky, making sure that the shoulders stay open. We don't collapse the shoulders, just to hook the elbow. Gently release, and on your exhale, step forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, rise all the way up, reaching for the sky. Exhale, hands to your heart center. Inhale. Exhale, keep the back flat as long as you can, and then rounding at the last moment. Inhale, flatten again. Exhale, this time we're going to work to the other side. So step the opposite foot back. and rise up into that first low lunge, really focusing on opening up the hip flexor of the back leg. Maybe you have a slight back bend, but really just focusing on the legs for this first part. Take another breath, and then release the hands and step to plank. On an exhale, slowly lower to the ground or hover in chaturanga. Inhale, back bend of your choice. If you're in cobra, really engage, squeezing the shoulder blades together. And then everyone will push back to down dog. So again, working on the same side. Pick up the foot, lifting towards the sky, three-legged dog, then exhale, step it through. Back knee drops to the ground. So you should have the same leg in front. And on an exhale, prayer twist across that front knee, opening up the heart, finding the twist all the way through the spine, maybe lifting towards the sky to twist even through the neck, and then gently release, reaching the hands to the sky, and then exhale, hands to the ground, step forward, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, release. Inhale, rise all the way up. Exhale, squeeze the belly button towards the spine, hands to your heart. Inhale, reach towards the sky. Exhale, fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, release, and step back with one foot. Soften the knee towards the ground and rise up, low lunge. Take a breath and then lift that back knee up off the ground. For the extra challenge, keep the toes uncurled so you're lifting up on the top of the foot, which doesn't quite feel natural, but it's a really great way to strengthen your quad. Go ahead and release wherever you are, flowing through a vinyasa and making your way to down dog. Take a breath and working on that same side, lift the foot towards the sky. Exhale, squeeze. Use the core strength to bring the foot in between the hands, and then inhale towards the sky again. Exhale, prayer twist. And again, if you'd like that extra challenge, keeping the top of the foot on the ground, engage the quad, pick the knee up off the ground. So you won't feel as stable as you do maybe in crescent pose, but it's a good change, a good creative way to build strength in that back leg. Gently release and step forward, this time lifting the back leg as high as you can towards the sky for standing splits. And then both feet to the ground. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, reverse swan dive, rise up. Exhale, squeeze everything in towards the midline. Inhale. Exhale, hinge at the hips and fold. Inhale, flat back. Notice how the stretch in the hamstring changes as you extend the back. And then working to the other side, gently step back, soften the knee to the ground, maybe untuck the toes and rise up. Low lunge. And here's our first glimpse of little poof. Again, engage the back leg, pick the knee up off the ground. Maybe give your cat or your dog a little scratch on the head, and then step back and flow through your vinyasa. We really never know how much time we have with our loved ones, whether it's a pet or a family member or a friend, so always make the most of it. Sticking with the same side, we're going to take that prayer twist to the other side. Avoid your kitty cat or doggy as you bring the knee through, finding low lunge first, and then exhale, prayer twist. Hook the elbow across the knee, and if you'd like, engage that back leg, picking the knee up off the ground, squeezing with the quad, creating a straight line from your toes out through the crown of your head. And then keep the knee lifted, release the twist, and then soften the knee to the ground. On your exhale, step forward, lifting the back leg, coming into standing splits for just a breath or two. and then release both feet to the ground. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. And then squeeze with the hamstrings and the glutes to rise up. Exhale, prayer. Inhale, grow tall. Exhale, fold forward. And this time we'll sink the hips down and back and lift the hands towards the sky for chair pose. Now make sure your back doesn't overextend so the abs are still in really tight. And then maintain your balance, pick up one foot and gently step back to crescent pose. Sink deep into the front leg. Squeeze with the abs so that you don't dump too much and overarch through the lower back. And then release the hands to the ground and step to plank, or keep the foot lifted like I did as I flow through the vinyasa, and then everyone will meet in down dog. Same side, pick up that foot, three-legged dog, reaching through the heel, and then exhale, squeeze with the core to step the foot through, rising up, crescent pose. Take a breath, find length in the spine, and then palms come together. Keep that length as you twist so that you're not twisting in a curved back, which can put unnecessary pressure on the discs in your spine. Continue to breathe and roll the shoulders open, maybe challenge your balance and bring the gaze towards the sky. Maintain your balance and release the twist, coming to crescent pose, and then palms come to the ground and step into that standing splits. Maybe taking it a little bit deeper by wrapping one or both hands around the standing leg. And then release the floating foot to the ground. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. And then drop the hips down and back. Reach the hands towards the sky. Inhale, tall, and then exhale, hands to your heart. Inhale. Exhale, fold first. And then inhale, rise up. Chair pose, engaging the upper back to squeeze the shoulder blades together and down the back, which will naturally give you the space to lift the arms. Find your balance on the other side and gently step back, crescent pose, engaging the back leg, trying to make it as straight as you can, but making sure you're still protecting the lower back. So if you don't have the space to do that, keep the knee slightly soft or slightly bent. Gently release the hands to the ground and flow through your vinyasa. Maybe both feet are on the ground. Maybe that foot is lifted. Everyone will find down dog and then working on the same side. Inhale, pick that foot up. Reach the heel towards the sky. Exhale, step it all the way through. Take a moment to find steadiness and then rise up. Crescent pose. Keep the length in your spine as the palms come together and you twist across the knee. Again, always finding that straight line of energy from the back heel out through the crown of the head, rolling the heart open, using the elbow and the palms as the tiniest bit of leverage, but really using the strength of your core to create the twist. Gently release. And when the hands come to the ground, stepping into standing splits, maybe making it a little bit more intense by wrapping a hand around the standing leg. And then both feet come to the ground. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, coming to chair and taking just a moment in chair and then rising up to mountain and hands come to your heart. Inhale, grow tall. Exhale, fold. Inhale, chair pose again, making sure the abs are engaged, shoulder blades are drawing down the back. And then before we transition to our lunge, let's take a twist in chair, making sure that the back knee doesn't jut forward as you hook your elbows around your opposite knee, and then maybe open up the hands. Now you can stay there if you'd like to just focus on strength and the twist, or you can try the arm balance coming into side crow. Wherever you are at, slowly make your way back to your twisted chair, and then release the hands towards the sky, continuing to sink into the hips. Exhale, fold. And you get an extra breath here in this forward fold as I readjust my mat. On the next inhale, flat back, half lift, and then release and fold forward. Inhale, chair pose. And exhale, we're going to take that same sequence to the other side. Twisting first in your prayer twist, keeping your knees aligned. And then maybe opening up the arms into airplane arms if that feels good. And then maybe taking that arm balance. Totally optional here. And if this is something that you are working on and you need a little bit more time to practice, feel free to pause. And then wherever you're at, come back to your twisted chair. And then gently release your elbows. Inhaling the hands towards the sky. On your exhale, fold forward. Inhale, flat back. And exhale, step one foot back and then the other, coming to plank. And then you can take a vinyasa or you can push right back to down dog. Inhale, exhale, roll the tailbone towards the sky. And then we're going to shift forward and bring those knees to hover again. Just like you would maybe in table, taking one leg out behind you and then exhaling knee to nose. Same movement, but the knees are not resting on the ground. So not only are you firing up the core, but you're also engaging that standing leg. Inhale the floating foot back to the sky, and then open up the hips. Hi, baby. Aw. Lovely kitty headbutt. And then go ahead and roll into side plank so that you're resting on the inside of your standing foot. And your bottom leg, let's take a few leg lifts, engaging the inner thigh. Release back to split down dog. And then both feet towards the ground. Shift forward again, shoulders over the wrists, knees floating off the ground, opposite foot reaches behind, and then exhales, taps the knee to the nose. We'll do that a few times. So you're engaging the core and the quad of the standing leg. And then on your next exhale, push back to split down dog. Keep the shoulders square to the ground and open up the hips. And then we're going to take that floating leg through, finding side plank and taking the bottom leg through a few leg lifts to engage the inner thigh. Release and step back to split down dog. And then both feet to the ground again. Inhale. And on your next exhale, jump or step the feet forward, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. And then exhale, fold again. Inhale, rise all the way up. Exhale, hands to your heart center. Now we're going to transition to a little bit of balance here. So your heart rate will come down, but your muscles will be just as engaged. So let's start with tree pose. You can bring the sole of the foot to the inside of the calf or the inside of the thigh. Take several breaths in tree pose to calm your system. Catch your breath and start to feel more stable. And if you really struggle with balance, you can always take that big toe and just barely touch it on the ground, or stand next to a wall and barely touch with one finger. It's all a mind game. So anything you can do to convince your mind that you are stable will help. Continue to breathe. We'll take a couple more breaths here. That standing leg should be starting to feel this. And then we're going to take the bent knee or the floating knee and bring it forward, extend that leg out, squeeze with your core to lift, and then sweep the floating foot behind you, coming into Warrior 3. Square the hips as much as you can in Warrior 3, and then sweep the foot back to the front, and we will cross the knee over into eagle legs. The farther you sink the hips down and back, the easier it will be to hook that top leg around your ankle, and then release, find mountain. Inhale to the sky, exhale, fold. Inhale, flat back, reach through the crown of the head, and then release and gently step to plank. From plank, let's rock over onto one side, and we're going to take that same tree pose and incorporate it into our side plank. So pick up the top leg and lift, squeeze your bottom obliques to lift the hips a little bit higher. Try to keep the foot engaged with your calf or your thigh and roll into plank and exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, up dog or cobra. Exhale, down dog. Take a breath here. Roll the tailbone towards the sky. Nice straight lower back. And then on your next exhale, jump or step forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, release. Inhale, engage the back of the legs to rise up. And then squeeze the core to bring your hands to your heart. Finding your balance on the other side. Let's start with tree pose. And really focus on finding stillness. So if that means that you need to bring the foot to your calf instead of your thigh, or bring your foot to the ground instead of your calf, that's fine. Really want you to find stillness and the peace that comes with stillness in this pose. So it should have a very meditative quality. We'll take a few more breaths here. If the hands are reaching towards the ground like mine, really pull the shoulders away from the ears, lengthen through the sides of the neck. If you're choosing to challenge yourself with the hands over the head, that's great as well. Either way, you can challenge your balance by bringing your gaze higher. One more breath. And then we're going to squeeze the core and bring that knee out in front. And then lift using the core and straighten the leg. Hold for a moment. And then gently sweep the floating foot back, coming into Warrior 3. Hands can be behind you like mine or out to the sides if that helps with your balance. And then sweep the foot back through, preparing for eagle legs. So picking the knee up high and then draping it down and around the standing leg. Sitting deep into the standing leg so that you have the space to wrap your toes around your ankle or your calf. And then gently release. Both feet come to the ground. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, flat back. And then gently step to plank. Preparing for side plank on the other side, roll over, stack the feet. And then when you're ready, pick up that top foot and bring it into tree pose again. Foot can be on the inner thigh or the calf. It really doesn't matter here because you're still challenging your strength in side plank either way. And then roll over into regular plank and flow through your vinyasa. Aw, hi buddy. I miss you so much. He was the best yoga buddy. In your down dog, breathe. And then walk your feet to the outside edges of the mat and walk your hands back to meet your feet. And we'll stay here for a moment, just hanging in forward fold. So you can wrap the hands around the elbows, or if you like to step onto the palms and massage your wrists with your toes, that's also an option. Whatever feels good for you here. And then go ahead and release the hands to the ground and gently drop the hips towards the ground. You can tick-tock them back and forth like I do, or if you have the openness in your hips, to just go ahead and sink down into Malasana, whatever works for you. And if your heels come up off the ground, don't worry about it. I felt so self-conscious about that for a long time, but I just have really tight ankles and it's just my bone structure. And so it's okay if you can't get the heels to the ground. Go ahead and release, find forward fold again. Yoga is about feeling good in your body and learning about your body. So it's okay if you can't do something. You're still learning, and the more you learn, the more you start to feel comfortable in your own skin. Let's go ahead and take Malasana one more time. And this time, let's take it into an open twist, hooking one elbow in front of the knee, other hand to the sky, and maybe you can wrap around the shin and grab a hold of the fingertips. If you're like me and your heels are off the ground, that might be really challenging on your balance, so you could grab a block and sit on a block to take that twist instead. Let's go ahead and release and find the same twist on the other side. An open twist, so you're hooking around the shin, reaching around the back, seeing if you can grab a hold. Maybe your heels are on the ground, but you just don't have the openness in your shoulders to bind. You can always grab your strap. Let's go ahead and release wherever you are and find forward fold once again. Go ahead and heel toe the feet together. And then soften the knees and come into a squat position. Open up the knees, toes and heels stay together. Give your kitty or doggy or child a pat on the head and reach forward, letting the hips sink down behind you, knees open wide, fingertips forward, and then release and come into plank. However you need to get there. On your exhale, slowly lower to the ground, and then resting on the ground, walk the hands back just a little bit and rise up into a low cobra, focusing on squeezing with the upper back to lift. Use the strength of your back to pull your chest away from the ground. Take another breath. Really, really good for your posture. And then release the forehead towards the ground. Let's go ahead and walk the hands wide and roll through cobra. Rolling up with one shoulder and looking over that shoulder, and then back down to center. And then rising up in the center. Should feel like a really great stretch through your chest and the front of your shoulder. Resting in center, go ahead and rest your forehead on the backs of your hands. And then let's bring the hands behind the back, interlock the fingers, and draw the knuckles down the back body. Reach the thumbs to either thigh, engaging the back on that side. So now you're focusing more on engaging the middle part of your back. Cobra, we were focusing on our upper back. This variation of locust, now focusing on the middle back. Go ahead and release and rest once again. And then we're going to interlock the fingers again, opposite thumb on top. And as you reach the knuckles down the backs of the legs, go ahead and lift the legs. And then you're going to rock side to side again, engaging each side of your back, lifting and reaching the thumbs towards one heel and then towards the other. Center and release back down. Rest your head to the ground. Take a breath For some people, this is extremely challenging, which probably means you could use some practice with your posture. Go ahead and pick up one foot, and we're going to come into a half bow. We'll lift half in bow and half in locust. Gently release. Keep the foot in towards your hip and focus on opening up the front of the quad by pushing the heel towards your hips, maybe flipping your grip, getting some stretch in the chest and the shoulder again, and then gently release. Opposite side. Pick up the opposite foot, grab a hold with the hand, push the foot into the hand, and lift. So again, half of your body is doing bow pose, the other half locust, engaging the back, and then keeping the foot towards your hip as you release to the ground and pushing the heel closer to your hip, flipping your grip if that feels good. Focusing on a deep quad stretch on that side. And then release. Going into full bow next. So when you're ready, pick up both feet, grab a hold of the ankles or the tops of the feet, and then push the feet into the hands. So it's really your legs that are doing the work to create the back bend. And the more you push the feet into the hands, the more you will lift your chest away from the ground. One more breath. And very gently lower back down. If you have the range of motion, you can do both legs with a quad stretch, flipping the grip on both sides, pushing the heels towards the hips. I must have been having a really good day because that is usually very difficult for me. Gently release, and then we are all going to make our way back to child's pose. If you'd prefer down dog, that's totally an option as well. Breathe in child's pose or down dog and focus on lengthening the lower back. Wherever you are, we're going to come to seated with the feet pointed towards the front of your mat. One leg will stay extended, opposite sole of the foot comes to rest on the inside of your extended thigh. Inhale towards the sky and exhale, fold forward. Try to keep the spine nice and long so you're not curving towards the thigh or curving towards the knee. Instead, you're trying to fold the body in half. Grab a hold of wherever you can reach. Maybe it's your ankle, maybe you can wrap the hands around the foot, or maybe you'd like to grab a strap. And take long breaths, just releasing towards the front of the leg. Then come back up to upright and take that bent knee. And we're going to twist. You can cross the leg over the extended leg if that feels good. And you can wrap the knee into the nook of the elbow, or you can hook the elbow on the outside of the knee. Backhand is there for support. And if you'd like to take it a little bit further, you can try for the bind. And you can do this by either reaching through the legs, or if you have the range of motion, you can actually reach around the shin. I don't quite have that range of motion. And if you want to try the bind but you can't reach the hands, you can always grab your strap. Go ahead and release, and let's find that same forward fold first on the other side, inhaling to the sky, and then exhale, fold forward. So one leg is out straight, opposite knee is bent, letting the knee fall open with the sole of the foot on the inside of the thigh. Again, grabbing a hold of whatever you can reach, really focusing on having a nice long flat upper body rather than curving forward. When you're ready, release, come back up to upright. Your bent knee is going to come up. You can cross it over. Start by maybe just wrapping the elbow around the knee, giving yourself a hug. And then maybe hooking the elbow across the knee. Backhand is there for support. Really focus on keeping a tall spine. And then if you'd like to try for the bind, you can reach through the legs or wrap all the way around the shin. Again, making sure that as you breathe, you're keeping the body tall, focusing on lengthening the spine with the inhale, and then using your exhale to release and ease into the twist. Wherever you are, go ahead and release both feet out in front this time. Inhale towards the sky, exhale, fold. Maybe grabbing a hold of the toes in a yogi toe lock or holding on to the ankles or the feet. Again, really focusing on a flat back. Think about reaching your belly button towards your knees and your nose towards your ankles. And that will help you keep the length in the spine rather than curving down. Go ahead and release. Hands walk behind, just a few inches behind the hips, and then push the hips towards the sky for reverse plank. Opening up the front of the body, opening the hips after those forward folds, and then release back down. Make sure you have enough space because we're going to roll down. So find boat. Just like we did at the beginning of class, long, strong boat, and then with control, we're going to roll down one vertebrae at a time, try to keep the feet perfectly still, and then as soon as the shoulder blades touch the ground, bring the feet over the hips and lift the hips towards the sky for shoulder stand. If this is too much for you, you can just do legs up the wall instead. Or keep the hips on the ground, stay away from the wall, and just keep the toes lifting towards the sky. It's the same great inversion. Also, if you have any kind of neck issues, that might be a better option for you than going into shoulder stand. Please feel free to stay in shoulder stand for at least a minute. Or 10 long, steady breaths, making sure that you're keeping the breath balanced, which can sometimes be challenging in shoulder stand. Slowly release. We're going to come into plow, so if you'd like to just drop the feet over the head, you can. I didn't have quite enough space. So in plow, we want to think about stacking the hips right on top of our shoulders. And then I like to play with my toes over my head. Sometimes I walk the toes a little farther away and then try to grip the ground and roll my heels out over the toes, which makes it a little bit more intense. You also have the option of dropping the knees to the ground on either side of your ears and maybe giving yourself a little bit of a squeeze right at your temples. Wherever you are, we're going to slowly come back down to the ground, one vertebrae at a time, massage out the spine. And then come into whatever variation of fish pose works for you. So I'm doing it today with my legs in goddess. You can do it with straight legs. You can even do it with straight legs in the air like you would in boat pose. Just listen to your body and really open up your throat. After shoulder stand and plow, where your throat is collapsed, it's important to stretch the neck in the opposite direction. And then gently release. And we're going to slowly close out with a few more twists, so make sure you have enough space. Hands come to a T. You can keep the knees together, or for a more intense twist, you can cross one leg over the other into eagle legs, and then drop the knees to one side, gaze to the opposite side. You might feel a few pops here. Continue to breathe, and with each exhale, squeeze with the core to support your spine. Even in a supine twist, it's still important to protect the spine. Keeping the legs crossed, exhale, bring them up and over to the opposite side. Now looking in the other direction. And so you should notice a different sensation when you move the legs from one side to the other. Come back to center, uncross the legs, maybe extend them to the sky. And then we're going to take the same twist, opposite leg on top. So crossing the legs again, dropping them over to one side, looking to the opposite side. If you are not using eagle legs, that's perfectly fine. Just keep the knees stacked. You can still get a really great twist. One more breath. And then exhale, keep eagle legs just like they are, and roll them to the opposite side. Switch the direction of your gaze. Take another breath, using the natural exhale to squeeze with the core and support your spine in the twist. And then come back to center, release the legs, maybe extend them towards the sky if that feels good, or you can hug them towards your chest. And then bend the knees and let the knees open up to either side of your rib cage. Grab a hold of the soles of the feet and find happy baby. Feel free to slowly rock side to side, massaging out your back. Or you can stay centered and stay steady, just rolling the tailbone towards the ground, opening up the backs of the legs and the glutes. When you're ready, come back to center and bring the soles of the feet together. Keep your hands wrapped around the soles of the feet and let the weight of the feet push into the hands, pulling the shoulders away from the ears, stretching out the sides of the neck. Let gravity do the work here. So you'll feel the stretch in your neck, and the more you let gravity roll the tailbone to the ground and roll the knees open, you'll feel a stretch in your inner thigh and groin as well. You can keep the soles of the feet together, release them to the ground, and find goddess pose. If you do that, make sure you're only staying for a handful of breaths and then releasing the legs out and finding Shavasana. Goddess pose is really relaxing and really comfortable and a lovely way to close out your practice, but we still want to finish with the traditional Shavasana. Shavasana lets your body fully recover because you're not putting any kind of pressure, contraction, or lengthening in the body. It's just naturally lying and opening, and there's no push and pull, so you can truly recover, just like you would if you were sleeping. So in Shavasana, let's take a few moments so that we don't go to sleep, we don't take a nap. Let's take a few moments to scan our body. Just check in and notice how it feels, starting with your feet. Really focus and try to mentally relax each body part as you make your way up the legs. Notice any strain that may have occurred that you should avoid in the future. Or notice any openness that feels really, really good so that you can focus on that in the future. As you start to make your way up towards the head, start to feel the support of the floor beneath you. Notice the peace that you feel relaxing into that support. Now please feel free to stay here as long as you'd like, or you can slowly start to wake up the body and make your way up to a seated position. I want to say thank you so much for sharing your practice with me today, and I really appreciate you joining me in remembering my kitty cat. Thank you again. I hope you had a wonderful practice. Namaste.